Let's start off with the show tonight. Been a lot going on this week in New York City. A lot of energy, a lot of drama. Are you looking forward to this fight living up to what's been happening outside of the ring this week?
Yeah, I feel like I'm a fan. So, because I'm so in love with the sport and so invested in the sport as a fan, I think I've got a really good understanding of what is exciting and what we can look forward to.
Yeah.
And this is a fight I look forward to because for Richie, he's actually had a phenomenal run with us. When I was actually thinking about it today, like when he left Mayweather Promotions, it was a young, undefeated kid that was nowhere near a world title, had no profile, really. And then we went out, we boxed him on the undercard here. Then he headlined in Orlando against Cepeda. Then he headlined against Lemos in Las Vegas. Then he headlined in Puerto Rico against Paro to win the world title. Yep. Now he's headlining at MSG against Kambosos. So I think Richie hasn't quite got the credit that he deserves. And I think this is the fight that could help him get there. For Kambosos, who I've grown to really like as well, because he's a tenacious little fucker. Yeah. Like he's really like, and that's what, you know, this whole thing at the moment about, and I like it from Turkey as well, you know, like the Tom and Jerry stuff and stuff like that. You know what you're going to get with Kambosos. He's desperate to win, desperate. And he's got money, so he's not here for the payday. He's just here for a bit of legacy. Yeah. And he'll be very tough to beat tonight. Richie's the better fighter, skill-wise, but it'll be interesting to see how he deals with the occasion as well.
And in terms of what's next for the winner, Puello's aligned with the PBC, same with Gary Antoine Russell. Nobody really knows what's happening with Teofimo Lopez. Yeah. Those are the three other title holders in the division. Where do you see the winner of this fight going in terms of their position?
I mean, Kambosos, when I signed him, has already kind of said, when I beat Hitchins, I want to run it back with Teo, which obviously they've got history, you know. For Richie, I think Richie against Teofimo Lopez is a great fight. Two kids out of Brooklyn, you know, it's a good fight. See if he moves to 47. I don't really understand the desire for Teo to move to 47. I don't think he needs to physically. Mm-hmm. Like when he hydrated and they weighed in for the last show, he was like 145 pounds.
Yeah.
So I'm not so sure, but also, you know, there's good opportunities now for people to work together because we've got an open path with PBC. We're talking to them. We work with Golden Boy a lot now. So Puello against Matias, the winner's got to fight Dalton Smith, which is our guy. Russell, you know, could be a fight there. And we'll see what happens with the likes of, you know, Keyshawn moving up, those kind of guys.
Thank you.
Speaking of the Keyshawn, could there be a possibility of Keyshawn versus Richardson Hitchins?
Yeah, I mean, look, who knows what's happening with Keyshawn? I mean, something's not right about him, you know, and he's got to deal with that. And I don't know him well enough to know what's going on, but something's going on. And I think he's got to come back. He'll be up at 140 now. I guess he'll use the opportunity with the WBO to put himself in what might be a mandatory position, you know, which is potentially for Teofimo. And if Teofimo moves up, he could be fighting for the vacant title. So yeah, I think Keyshawn is obviously going to be around at 140.
The other day we had talked about Boots, and you know, you confirmed that more than likely he's going to 154. That made its way around social media, and then like his path forward became like the conversation online a little bit. You know, Virgil seems to be out, but you spoke about that being a potential fight. What do you think is the most realistic option if it's not Virgil? Could it be Tellez? He's got the interim 154 title. You know, could it be maybe a different guy? You know, Murtaliev is out there.
You know. I think like there's no final decision from Boots yet, and he'll make that decision and he'll announce in due course. But you know, one of the reasons that we didn't jump at the Teo fight is because of the weight and because it's a real possibility that he's going to move to 54. So they asked us if we'd fight Virgil Ortiz on August 16th. We said yes. And then they said Virgil wasn't available in August. He's not going to fight till later in the year. So we now say we'll probably fight in August, September, and then we're up for Virgil Ortiz as well. November, December, whenever. For us, I think it would be good to have that kind of interim fight. I like the Bohachik fight, you know, Mendoza, Thurman, like whoever. I spoke to Louis de Cubas from PBC and said, let me know who you've got at 154. I don't think people are going to be jumping out to fight him, if I'm honest. but you know, there's a decent payday there and a big fight.
Looking at 175, Eddie, we've got obviously Better Be Bivol. Right under that, we've got a crop of title contenders, especially out of England. The one that I'm going to ask you about is obviously Callum Smith, rumored to be taking on David Benavidez. What's the status of that fight and what's going on with Callum Smith right now?
So we've had an offer from PBC for Callum Smith to fight Benavidez. We're negotiating with them at the moment. It's a great fight, and we all know that Benavidez is a great fighter. You know, it's not an easy fight at all. Callum was the Ring Magazine world champion at 168 pounds. He'd love another shot at the title. There's no easy championship at 175. You know, you've either got Bivol or Benavidez. So there is a very good chance that Callum will take that fight against Benavidez, and we'll be making our decision over the next 1 or 2 weeks.
So that would be an offer for a fight here in the United States for Callum.
Yeah.
Eddie, you know, Tank, he's got his hands full. He's got a rematch coming up on the Mont Road soon, and no guarantee that fight goes his way. But, you know, beyond that, you've got 2 fighters, one who's been talking about for a long time in Shakur, and now Richardson Hitchins, you know, in the mix, and it seems like they've been going back and forth. Is that a fight? I mean, obviously, I know you'd love to get Tank in with either of those guys, but you think there's any more potential with Richardson Hitchins than there was with Shakur?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Heyman's going to want to do with Tank. Like, he's got the fight with Roach coming up. Is that dates up?
August 16th
as well, yeah. So, you know, that's a tough fight. But then after that, who is there for him to fight? You know, I think it's the same with Shakur. You know, when Shakur beats Zepeda, you know, he could attempt to unify. Obviously, you've got Abdullah Mason, Sam Noakes. You've got Andy Cruz, he's going to fight. Touchwood, he wins tonight. He's going to fight Murataya for the IBF world title. So there's those unification fights for Shakur, but you know, the fight really is Shakur v Tank, but it's just a case of whether Tank and their team would want to accept that.
What do you think is the holdup there? Is it just like, because I'm sure Tank is not afraid of Shakur, but you think is it like pride getting in his way, or maybe the online
I don't know, yeah, but like, to be honest with you, Shakur is unbelievably humble about that fight. You know, where he goes, I'm the B-side, I'm getting less money, I understand. So, I don't know, it's just whether Tank or Heyman want to give him that fight.
Let's just say in a theoretical world, because again, they've been going back and forth. They are in different weight classes by 5 pounds, but Richardson Hitchins versus Tank. How do you see that fight going if it were to ever happen?
Richardson's going to be tough for anybody to beat. You know, I mean, you see that tonight. But again, the problem is with Richardson, and this was the problem with Boots, but we built Boots now, is that people will use the excuse of, he's not that big a name, or he doesn't have that kind of profile, as an excuse not to fight him. So we built Boots, he started selling out arenas, now you get great money to fight him. But the problem is, with Richie, you don't yet. So tonight it's a step towards that. You know, because everyone, why would I fight Richardson Hitchins? So when someone says that, that means they're very good and they're tough to beat. Do you know what I mean? Because if they weren't, they'd just fight them.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Brian Norman Jr. is fighting next week. You obviously made overtures and offers in his direction for a Boots fight. You think there's a bit of regret there that they've lost that opportunity?
No, I just think they don't want the Boots fight. I mean, we offered them 1.8 million before, and they asked for 2 million. And then something happened, I can't remember now. And then this time, we went back after the Stanionis fight, and we said, "Oh, we'll give you the 2 million." And they said, "Oh no, we're going to Japan." And I said, "No, I know that, but let's lock it in for later in the year."
Yeah.
And they said, "No, we don't want to talk about any fights till after the Japan fight." I'm like, "Why?" "Oh no, because we're just focused on that." It's like, well, I know Brian's focused on that, but your team, Top Rank, were happy to do the deal.
Yeah.
But Brian wasn't. So I don't know. I mean, he's a good fighter, but.
And would that be a potential opponent potentially for Conor Benn? Should he move back
Look,
down to 147?
If Boots moves to 54, then Paddy Donovan against Lewis Crocker will be for the vacant IBF world title.
Yeah.
Then the winner of that may well fight Conor Benn for the world welterweight title, or opens up a huge fight with Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, and if Boots vacates, Giasov, who is the mandatory for the Super Championship, will either fight for that vacant title or will get ordered to fight Rowley
Yeah.
for the championship.
Yeah.
And Gearsoft beats Rowley. So we are going to be placed, I believe, if Boots does vacate, with 2 welterweight world championships. And obviously Conor Benn, after the next Eubank fight, will want to revert to 147. And it's quite important for me that he gets a shot at that world title. But the 147 division is going to be red hot over the next 12 months because all those guys, a lot of those guys are coming up. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised to see Keyshawn at 47, like soon. Probably fight at 140, but you know, you're going to see a lot of guys up at 147. And I think those kind of glory years that we saw a little while ago, you know, with Spence and Crawford and even Kell Brook, Amir Khan, Mayweather, like all those,
Danny Garcia.
I think that's going to come back again.
Yeah, and at 200 pounds, we saw Jaya Bataille get an impressive win recently. I believe he broke his opponent's jaw.
Yeah.
However, the opponent really wasn't, I would say, elite or world level. Talk about the challenges of getting that kind of elite or world level opponent for Jaya Bataille. We haven't really seen him in there with one since the Bradis fight, which seems like it was a long time ago.
It's more over that part of the world.
Yeah.
So, like to make the financials work in Australia, it's very difficult when Jai has been making obviously Riyadh season money over there. So you're quite limited in terms of what you can pay for an opponent.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's fighting top 15 guys. Naika's a good fighter, but, you know, he was actually the mandatory at the time.
Yeah.
Squayo was just a voluntary out of the top 15, well overmatched, but it is what it is, you know. And you can't really do too much. Like, Zerdo, Opatara against Zerdo is a really good fight.
Absolutely.
And it's just a fight that should be made naturally. But you can't just click your fingers if the other guy doesn't want the fight. Like, that's a fight that I believe that His Excellency is willing to pay for. He's invested heavily in Jai Opatara over the years, so he wants a big fight with him. And after Zerdo fights Dorticus in July, he should just say, I want to fight Jai. I'm not so sure he will.
So when you say the other guy, you're referring specifically to the fighter, not to De La Hoya's promoter.
No, I think Oscar will. I mean, Oscar knows boxing. He knows how good Opatara is. But Oscar's not afraid to make big fights.
Yeah.
But it's everybody's got to buy into that. And it is a dangerous fight. But it's supposed to be a dangerous fight, isn't it? I mean, like, that's... If it's a lot of money and it's a unification fight, it should be a dangerous fight. But it's the best fight in the division, and it's one of the best fights out there, to be honest with you. So, you know, you've got Mikalayan, it's a rematch in Badu Jack. I would like Jai's next 2 fights to be back-to-back, you know, unifications. See him become undisputed at cruiserweight and then move to heavyweight. I really think he can win world championships at heavyweight as well.
No stopover at Bridgerweight?
Nah, doesn't exist in my book.
Eddie, just give me an honest opinion on the comeback of Manny Pacquiao. We've never seen somebody get inducted into the Hall of Fame.
I think like it's very difficult to criticise Manny because 1, he's such a nice human being, and 2, he's an all-time legend. But you can't just be out for 5 years, like already be done, and then come back, have a couple of exhibitions, look terrible, and then phone up the WBC and say, stick me in at number. What are you going at, 5 or 9 or something like that? It's like, but also it is a business, and I do understand, but it just makes a little bit of a mockery of the World Championships. And Barrios is not the greatest world champion, but I think he's better than what we saw last time out, you know, when he boxed on the Mike Tyson card. And I think he'll beat Manny Pacquiao quite handily. So you can't really, you know, I'm happy for Manny, but it just shouldn't work out like that. And you'll see a shot legend in the ring, which I think is quite sad, you know. But listen, if he wants to do it and he's got the will to do it, good luck to him. But I just don't think you should be out for 5 years, not fight anybody, and then just stroll back into the rankings because you're Manny Pacquiao. Do the fight, but it shouldn't be for the World Championship, in my opinion. But I don't think he has a chance at all, even though Barrios showed no great form just think he'll just be too young and strong for it.
And you spoke about something earlier that Turkey also has, you know, he tweeted about the Tom and Jerry thing, right?
Yeah.
It seemed like he could have been, I don't want to put word in Turkey's mouth, but alluding to Devin Haney and his performance in his last fight. But just what are your thoughts on him saying that and it impacting fighter styles? You know, some fighters, it's not necessarily running, but they don't have a necessary like a come forward attack or use their power to win. I think it has an impact and, you know, business going forward.
Yeah, I think that I like to see exciting fights, right? We all do.
Yep.
Not everybody fights like that. And as a promoter whose job is to guide the career of a fighter successfully and to see him continue, hopefully, to win, it would be kind of moronic of me to say to a fighter that you've got to stop, you know, you've got to start trading, you've got to start fighting in the pocket. They're like, what? Like, that's not what I do. It's not moronic of Turkey because he's paying the bill and he's not really guiding the career of fighters. Do you know what I mean? He's just saying, I'm paying for entertainment. Fucking entertain me. And I'm overpaying you. So when I overpay you, you better excite me and the fans. And then they don't, and it's like, that was a fucking waste of money. And he's very honest about it. I don't think I could ever say that to a fighter, but what you can say is to all fighters, just understand this. If you fight like that, no one's going to want to watch you. And if no one wants to watch you, people aren't buying tickets. And if people aren't buying tickets and people aren't tuning in, then you're not going to get opportunities and you're not going to get the money you deserve. And this man coming in now, Sugar Nunes, this is a guy that you know every time they step into the ring will give you entertainment. Probably one of the most exciting pound for pound fighters I've ever worked with. And when we went, you know, what I like about Sugar Nunes is you can put him in any situation, any fight, any environment, and I know he's coming out on top. Like, he's the kind of guy that you could throw into a bar with 40 people and say, Sugar, I'll see you in 5 minutes, and he'll come out, you know, like a Western out of the bar and say, Vamos! Right? So much so that he went to Dagestan or wherever, you know, to fight Rakimov. I mean, in the most hostile of territories, and they tried to rob him on the scorecards, even though like, and he knocked the guy out in the 11th round. Then he went to Japan, and it was like, no problem. And like, I would never send a fighter to Japan really to fight for the world title, but I'd send Sugar because I know he's fine. Like, I know he's coming out the other side, you know. And now against Rikishi, he changed his life because he's now, for me, one of the most exciting fighters pound for pound in the sport, but also world champion at 130 pounds with massive fights. You know, Navarrete, unification, Ray Ford, who's here tonight, he's fighting Kakachi. If he beats Kakachi, he could fight Sugar Nunes as well. And this is a guy you guys need to start talking. He's a young man, and he's going to be around for a long time. And I want to make sure you guys follow his journey.
Una pregunta aquí, Azúcar. Háblanos por favor de la experiencia de pelear allá en Japón y la experiencia de ganar el título mundial y lo que quieres hacer este año y el año que viene en el deporte de boxeo.
Ok, primero que nada agradecer a Eddie por la descripción, y pues fue una buena experiencia, también fue muy emocionante ver a Eddie que estuviera allá en Japón y no, tuve una preparación excelente, un desempeño también en la pelea muy bueno, nos enfrentamos a un gran peleador que es Rikishi, y gracias a Dios pues nos logramos llevar la pelea ampliamente y me siento contento de estar en el lugar en el que estoy, esperé mucho tiempo por ello y pienso seguir trabajando, me encantaría hacer una defensa y luego una unificación.
So the question was, talk to us about that experience that you had going to Japan, going and winning that world title, but also what you want to do next year, in the coming years, and what you want to achieve in the sport. And Sugar's answer was, I want to say first and foremost, thank you to Eddie for that great description of me before. But also, I'd like to say that it was a fantastic experience in Japan. It was really exciting to go there. I think we put in a really good camp preparation, and it was also a really good performance from me on the night against the great fighter Rikishi, and thank God we managed to achieve what we achieved. You know, in terms of what I'd like to do next, I would love to continue working hard. I would love to have a defense of my title, but also to go on and unify in the division.
¿Te gustaría pelear contra Navarrete? ¿Y aquí en los Estados Unidos o en tu México lindo?
Me encantaría, donde sea que fuera, en México, en Estados Unidos. Sé que iba a ser una pelea muy atractiva para todo México y para toda la afición del mundo del boxeo, y tengo fe que un día se va a dar esa pelea.
So the question was, would you like to face Navarrete? Would you like to do that in the US or in your, you've been to the country of Mexico? And Sugar's answer was, I'd love to have that fight. I'd love to have that fight anywhere, Mexico or the US, wherever. I think it'd be a really attractive fight for the fans. But I think it would also be an attractive fight for the whole boxing world, and I have the faith and the belief that that fight can be made.
Sugar, ¿cómo estás? Felicitaciones primero que todo por el título. Navarrete o va a una revancha contra el filipino o tal vez sube. Lamont Roach va contra Gervonta Davis. Solamente te queda Foster. ¿Qué tú piensas? ¿Pelear con Foster y tal vez subir? ¿O qué es lo que realmente tú deseas? ¿Qué es lo que tú quieres hacer?
Lo he dicho pues mucho, que me encantaría pelear con Foster y con Navarrete, porque estoy interesado en una unificación, y con cualquier campeón me encantaría pelear. No tengo problema por ello.
So the question was, obviously Navarrete is going to look for the rematch with a Filipino fighter. You've got Lamont Roach, you've got who might be going up in weight. So is the Foster fight one that you'd be really interested in, or what would you like to do in terms of opponents that you would like to face? And Sugar's answer was, I've always said that Oshaki Foster or Navarrete would be the fights that I'd like to have, because I'd like to unify, and the opportunity to go and unify in that division. So I'd have no problem facing either of those fighters.
Sugar, I know obviously you're going to welcome all comers, and in a unification bout or a defense. My question for you is, as far as the champions go, the Navarretes, the Fosters like we just spoke about, who of those guys do you think would have the hardest time with your style?
Sí, hablamos, obviamente, has hablado de querer unificar la división y todo esto. Hemos hablado de Navarrete y Foster. Entre ellos dos, ¿quién lo tendrá más difícil lidiar con tu estilo?
Pues los dos son grandes peleadores. Siempre lo he dicho que Vaquero también es un gran peleador. Me gusta mucho ver sus peleas, también de las peleas de Foster. Son pues grandes peleadores que por algo están en el lugar en el que están. Y
díganos, Sugar, díganos, habla claro.
A los dos se les iba a dificultar.
So the question was, no, the question was English. So they're two great fighters, Navarrete and Foster. I really enjoy watching their fights. So they're obviously where they are for a reason. And then the question was, can you stop sitting on the fence? Tell us who would have it more difficult. And I should have said, I think both.
Háblanos por favor de tu historia en el deporte, cómo empezaste, lo que hiciste a nivel amateur.
Ok, empecé a los 13 años. Empecé por defensa propia, para aprender a defenderme. Hice una carrera amateur de 5 peleas, pero tuve muy bonita y buena experiencia en los sparring. Me tocó trabajar en sparring con Fernando Montiel, Cochulito, con Hugo Increíble Cázares, con grandes campeones que estuvieron en el gimnasio. Pienso que me sirvió mucho esos sparring, y pues debuté a los 17 años y aquí hace 10 años y aquí seguimos trabajando.
So the question was, talk to us a little bit about your history in the sport. How did you start? What was your amateur background? And Sugar said, I started at 13 years of age, and the reason I got into boxing was for self-defense, really. I only had 5 amateur fights, but I had some great experience in terms of the sparring that I had with Montiel, with Cáceres, some wonderful champions there, and I think that really helped. I made my debut as a professional at 16 years of age, and here I am today.
Sugar, Eddie said that, if you were in a bar with 40 dudes, he would, give you the pound, walk out the bar and say, I see in a little bit, and he had confidence you could come out. So my question for you is, where do you think he, besides obviously your fights, where do you think that comes from in you, where somebody would have confidence that one Sugar versus 40 dudes, Sugar wins the battle?
de lo que hablamos cuando él estaba hablando de sientes un bar, hay 40 hombres y tú sales sin problema y todo esto. ¿Desde dónde viene ese poder y por qué crees que tiene que tanta confianza y dónde viene de ti ese poder, esa posibilidad?
Pienso que es del trabajo que realizamos día con día. Me encanta la verdad el gimnasio, estar en el gimnasio. Y más que nada es eso, el trabajo y la dedicación que uno realiza.
To be honest, I think it's just the work that I put in, day out. I love being in the gym and I work really hard. It's that dedication that I put in. I think it comes from there.
Has he ever fought 40 dudes?
¿Has tenido una pelea con 40 hombres en tu vida?
Maybe tonight.
Díganos tu sentimiento en firmar con Eddie Hearn y por qué escogiste Matchroom.
Pues la verdad que muy contento por este paso que se dio en mi carrera. Agradecido también con mi equipo, los Cochules, Boxstar y Lático por la decisión que tuvieron y por la proyección. Más de un gran equipo, sé que nos va a proyectar muy grande como lo ha estado haciendo y ansiosos por seguir trabajando con ellos.
So the question was, tell us why you chose Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. You know, why did you make this step to work with Matchroom? And Sugar said, I'm really happy with the step that I made, in my career. I have to say thank you to my team as well, Los Cocholos, Latin Co, Boxstars as well. I think Matchroom have really been able to push me really well, and I think they'll continue to promote me in a great way, and I'm really anxious to see what's next.
Eddie, we recently heard Turkey LLC describe certain fights as Tom and Jerry fights. I'm guessing you're going to agree with me that this is no Tom and Jerry fighter. What's the likelihood that we see him get a big opportunity on one of these Riyadh Season or Ring Magazine cards?
I've been pushing him on those cards for a while now.
Yeah.
But he just needed that breakout fight because, His Excellency watches a lot of fights around the world, but he's not had an opportunity to watch him.
Yeah.
And before he fought in Japan, I said to Turkey, make sure you watch this guy. So he now knows this guy is full of excitement. And, there's a lot of people following those comments that have been reaching out to Turkey saying, I'm excited, let me have a shot, But now we're a little bit different because before we were looking for that opportunity, now we got the crown. So now we're going to be smart, but we're going to still fight everybody. But I know that every time he goes into the ring, how exciting he is. But you see with Sugar, he's a very interesting style because when you think of an aggressive Mexican fighter, you just think of this come forward, like, not sloppy, but like just someone that takes chances. And he does, but his IQ is incredible as well. Like if you actually watch the Rikishi fight, he physically beats him up and then he breaks him down. And the shot selection, he starts off throwing, more aggressive shots, then he moves to straight shots, then he's stabbing the body, he's working him on the inside. Like he has a very high IQ, as well as being very aggressive, and also with the biggest knockout ratio in the sport, because that's what he has, fact, the biggest knockout ratio in boxing.
Yeah, we're talking about a fighter that, if anything, is cut from the cloth of Marco Antonio Barrera, high IQ, aggressive fighter, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So it's really about getting him the big fight. So who do you want to target?
I like the Navarrete fight because it's two Mexicans and it's just an absolute war. Like Navarrete's never in a bad fight, nor Sugar. But it's just, what we said earlier about those guys, they want to get paid very well to be in that kind of fight. Whereas Sugar's now, the money's going up and up for him, but he's not been spoiled yet. See, this Tom and Jerry stuff, what happens is the fighter starts to make a lot of money, and this is pure common sense, and I don't blame them, but they're not the same fighter. They don't want to be in the trenches. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they've got money.
Yeah.
And like, it's what you're seeing with Haney, Ryan Garcia, even Canelo Alvarez. Like, Canelo's a businessman. Why would you want to have that type of fight if you don't need to have that type of fight? Yeah? So I like to work with guys, especially on the come up, that are like, fucking throw me in the trenches and I'll fucking show you who comes out on top. And that's him. So the hope is that mentality continues So we unify the division. And listen, then when he makes his money and he's got his belts, let him turn soft. Do you know what I mean? But not yet. Like that's why. And someone like Navarrete, see Sugar right now is thinking, just give me the champions.
Yeah.
Like, give me the opportunity. I will walk through walls. Navarrete's going, give me the money. You know what I'm saying? It's a difference.
Eddie, can I ask a quick question? So we know the experience that Nunez has and everything, Sugar. We know Canelo is going to have a card coming up. Do you think this is the type of skill that we should put on the Canelo?
Yeah, I think that His Excellency talks about he wants younger fighters on there, like more prospects. But yes, is the answer. For us, the plan with Box Stars is to take him to Mexico in September, give him a homecoming defense, and then early next year move into a big fight in San Diego or somewhere in America. And that could be a unification, that could be a Ray Ford if he beats Kakashi. I mean, you know, it's got to be the right fight for him. And then we want to unify. So the next 3 fights, the plan is homecoming defense or unification in America, and then 100% unification. And the plan is for him to have 3 fights by the start of summer 2026.
Thank you.
Last question was
Actually,
Sylvester.
you just mentioned that you would like to see Nunez coming over here to make a statement. This fight would like to be in New York City, California, or Houston?
I think, like I said, San Diego is a place that I really like for the Mexican stars. It's somewhere that's worked well for us. Phoenix as well. You know, you've seen the other name that I think is a great fight for him for a defense is Oscar Valdez. You know, I think Nunez against Oscar Valdez is a good, solid, voluntary defense. Good name, good fighter, two tough Mexicans. So yeah, those parts of the world, like I said, Texas, you know, wherever. But I think Sugar against Valdez in Phoenix would do extremely well. All right, guys.
Thank you, Eddie.
Sugar's continuing. Eddie
Yeah,
just needs
we're going to start. So they're going to ask you a couple more questions, all right? Okay, guys. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
a couple more. He's going to go and watch the fights shortly. Yeah.
Sí, por favor.
You can squeeze it.
Ayer en la defensa le preguntaba a él dónde le gustaría que se hiciera en los Estados Unidos. Mencionamos California, Nueva York, Texas. ¿Piensas que sería atractiva traer una pelea aquí en Nueva York, donde es un lugar que ha venido Julio César Chávez y muchísimos nombres de élite?
Pues no tengo problema donde sea la pelea. Ellos son los que se encargan de eso. Yo me encargo de prepararme. Sé que donde nos toque pelear, a Vaquero y a mí, sé que la gente nos iba a seguir, más la afición mexicana, y ya ellos se encargarán de ese lado.
So yeah, the question was, we've just spoken to Eddie and we've spoken about this first defence that you'd like to have, and we mentioned places like the US, California, New York, Texas. Do you believe that this would be a good place, New York, to bring a big fight, for example, because we've had massive names, Julio César Chávez, elite fighters that we've had before. Would this be a good place to do that? And Sugar's answer was no problem. You know, I think those are the guys that are going to be in charge of making that happen. So wherever it happens, I think it will be fight that, if it's me and Vaquero Navarrete, I think that the Mexican fans will follow that wherever it is. So we'll leave that to those guys who actually are in charge of those things to sort out.
Eddie Hearn mencionó el nombre Oscar Valdez, ex campeón mundial, y la ciudad de Phoenix. ¿Qué piensa de esa pelea, de este lugar para esa pelea?
Un gran campeón Oscar Valdez, la verdad me encantaría también, pienso que iba a ser una guerra.
Sí.
Es un gran peleador, incluso a mi equipo le comentaba hace tiempo que quería pelear con él, y pues no lo descarto, me encantaría enfrentarme con él.
So the question was, you know, Eddie Hearn just mentioned then as a possible, defence against Oscar Valdez, and that would potentially be in Phoenix. I wonder what your thoughts are about fighting in that particular place. And Sugar's answer was, that would be great. That would be a great fight. I think obviously Oscar was a great champion, and I think it would be a great fight. I think it would definitely be a war. You know, he's a great fighter. I actually mentioned to my team that I would like to fight with Oscar Valdez. You know, I've mentioned it previously, so I'm not ruling that out.
Chula, ¿cómo estás? Mira, México obviamente es una tierra de campeones, cuna de campeones. La cara del boxeo, el Canelo. Pero no sé, se siente como que últimamente no hay esos ídolos como Olivares, como Chávez, que arrastraban multitudes, ¿no? El pueblo mismo. Y obviamente, con todo el respeto, el recibimiento que hicieron en los Mochis, Sinaloa, honestamente, yo no sé, primero que nada, si tú alguna vez soñaste con algo así, y si piensas que en un futuro tú puedes ser ese ídolo que el pueblo mexicano tanto necesita.
Sí, la verdad que bien contento por la forma en la que me recibieron. Siempre, gracias a Dios siempre he tenido el apoyo de mi gente ahí en mi pueblo y de los Mochis. Pero no esperaba esa forma en la que me recibieron, pero bien sorprendido, bien agradecido con todos. La verdad que fue algo muy bonito y que me motiva mucho para seguir haciendo mi trabajo, y pues nuestro trabajo va a hablar. Espero la verdad que llegar y cumplir con los objetivos, con la visión que ustedes tienen de mí.
So the question was, quite a long one, but a good one. Mexican, obviously, Mexico's kind of lacked the champions that it had in the past. Obviously, you've got the face of boxing in Canelo Alvarez, but we've not really seen those idols like Olivares, like Chavez, those people that really captured the Mexican people's hearts. Obviously, you're from Los Mochis, Sinaloa. Was it your dream, or would it be your dream to go on and be an idol? Gracias. An idol in the way that those people have been before for the Mexican people? And Sugar's answer was, you know, I was really delighted with the way that I was received and welcomed back home. You know, to be fair, I've always had wonderful support in Los Mochis. You know, I've always been thankful to have that great support. So it was a really lovely thing to have that homecoming. You know, I'm just going to continue doing the work that I've been doing. I think it really motivates me to do that, and I hope that I can go on to kind of be in the way that you've just had that vision of me now. I hope I can continue to work in that way to be that person.
Eddie Hearn mencionó tu experiencia, tu inteligencia, lo que tú estás haciendo dentro del cuadrilátero. ¿Quiénes son tus ídolos en el deporte?
Me gusta ver mucho a Mike Tyson, a Julio César Chávez, al Finito López, y trato de aprenderle a todos los peleadores que veo en videos. Trato incluso de practicar las cosas que me llaman la atención.
Eres estudiante del deporte, ¿te gusta estudiar?
Sí, claro. Las cosas que me gustan trato de ponerlas en práctica.
So the question was, you know, Eddie Hearn's mentioned your intelligence in the ring there, and your experience and intelligence in the ring. I just wondered who your idols were in the sport, kind of growing up, and who are your idols in the sport? And Sugar's answer was, you know, I love Mike Tyson. I also love Julio Cesar Chavez, Finito Lopez. I try to learn a lot from them by watching videos. You know, almost put into practice what they do and try and copy it in a way. And then the follow-up question was, so like you're a student of the sport. Yeah, I try to study and copy and emulate what those guys do.
Sugar, en este instante pues está representando a Sinaloa y felicitarte por ello, ¿no? Estamos viendo el regreso ahorita del hijo de la leyenda viviente, Julio César Chávez Jr. ¿Qué tú piensas ahorita en este instante? Julio César Chávez Jr. está haciendo esta pelea más por orgullo, ¿o crees que lo está haciendo por el dinero?
La verdad que no desconozco esas cuestiones de Julio. No he tenido el gusto de conocerlo. Pues espero que sea por orgullo, porque retome su carrera y haga grandes cosas.
So the question was about Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He's obviously back. He's son of a legend. Do you believe that he's taking this fight with, he's taking this fight with Jake Paul for pride or for money? And Sugar's answer was, I can't really give an answer to that because I don't know Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. personally. I hope it would be for pride rather than money, but I don't know what that reason is. But hopefully he'll come back and he can go on to do big things.
¿Y qué piensa de la pelea contra Jake Paul?